Hello there, my name is Sixo, but more on that later because I've got a simple question for you. Who doesn't love a black and teal Nemesis Prime recolor? And we've got what might be one of the best today. Yes, up for consideration, we've got the 2020 TakaraTomy Siege Nemesis Prime, a recolor of the original Siege Optimus Prime, of course, and it just looks absolutely breathtaking. I've been wanting this thing for some time, and now finally I have it. And that's all thanks to a chance encounter in the dealer hall of the most recent TF Nation here in the UK, where I spotted it, and it's just good fortune that I managed to get it for a great price, considering that it is the more desirable version versus the Hasbro alternative, which is also kind of nice and does come with a trailer and a few extra doodads, but it doesn't have the teal that I love on this one. In any case, I'm a sucker for a funky coloured Optimus Prime recolor, right? There's just something about that colour scheme, so good. And in this case, it's especially enticing because I've actually never handled the Siege Prime mold before, believe it or not, which I know may sound like heresy to some, but it just wasn't in my wheelhouse when it was first unveiled. And although yes, I do have the Earthrise one, I've always found it to be a little bit obvious that it's a sort of partial retool of this guy, so I'm truly intrigued to check this thing out today, see what it's all about, and get into it with that transformation. But of course, don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. Do you like what you see of this guy, or is it just not for you? Do you think Nemesis Primes are kind of boring? Be sure to spout off and let me know. Final thing before we begin, this video is brought to you by TF Source, so you will find a link to their site in the description below, where they've got tons of Transformers stuff in stock and available for pre-order right now, so what are you waiting for? Go and give them a look. Anyways, we're going to kick things off with the vehicle mode, and in this case it's this rather stylish Cybertronian styled truck. Of course I use the term Cybertron styled rather generously because let's be fair here, other than a few embellishments like these bits on the roof and the sort of Cybertronian styled wheels, it kind of looks like a futuristic Earth vehicle, if nothing else, right? I mean, make no mistake, this is not something I would expect to see on an alien world of any kind, even a robotic one, but still, it does look really good. I really like the kind of styling that they've gone with here. I mean, it's clearly an Optimus Prime truck as well, but hey, it just about gets away with it, I think. Besides, the finish here is spectacular. Love all this translucent paint here with the kind of teal accenting, the kind of teal stripe just above it as well. Likewise, those red windows look great, and I love the way that the moulding catches the light. Nice bit of silver going on in these sections here with some teal accents as well. That's all gorgeous. If anything, it makes the unpainted bumper look a little bit plain, but still, it is what it is. I love this little bit on the back, right, with these little hidden wheels. I just think that's so stylish. Very, very cool. Again, you've got some unpainted grey just here for the leg vents, but honestly, that looks fine. Got more silver on the kind of smokestack sections with those little 5mm weapons ports as well. Then you've got a teal Decepticon logo, which is slightly offset on this section, as we'll see on the shoulder pad in robot mode. We'll come to that. But then you've got the windows, which is a little bit odd actually, because you've got teal at the back, red at the front. I don't know what the decision was there to not have this bit just kind of painted red, but that's what they went with anyway. It's a little bit jarring. But you know, overall, I gotta say, this thing is very handsome in truck mode. I mean, it's very cohesive as well, really nice and solid and stable. There's no real gaps or compromises to be had anywhere. Even the rear truck bed here, which is often an area of compromise on Optimus Prime toys, looks really good and very solid. There is a little bit of a gap here, kind of a hole in the back of the truck, but you don't really see it, if anything. I think because of the black, you know, very dark colouring, it just kind of hides itself, but it is there. Gotta say though, I absolutely love how this thing looks overall. Just an absolute belter of an Optimus Prime design in my mind. I mean, it rolls really well as well. It's really nice and solid. What's not to like? Now you do have a bit of weapon storage going on here. Firstly with the gun, which can just be placed on the back of the truck bed like so. That's pretty neat. Alternatively, the gun can go in any of the other ports as well if you wanted to arm him up, like on the roof just there. And then this Takara version also has a rather natty little pink sword, which just kind of plugs in onto the side there. That's called the Ancient Sword apparently, and that looks good, I suppose. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't display it like that, but you know, in terms of weapon storage, what else are you going to do? And of course, with the Takara version, you don't get a trailer, but you can still add one if you have one. In this case, I've opted for the alternate universe Optimus Prime version because it happens to be black, and I can't deny that adds a little something in terms of presence, although to be fair, the wheels don't match as it's the Earthrise trailer mold, so I know it comes with the Hasbro version of the Nemesis Prime, but I think I'm okay without it, to be honest, not to mention that the trailer mold itself kind of pants. Anyway, in terms of comparisons here, you can see him with that Earthrise Prime mold and indeed the Laser Prime mold as well, the Toxitron release, which was a kind of partial retool of this original design, so for completeness sake, there they all are, although I gotta say, I think the Siege one smashes it. And just to show you what kind of good company he's in, here he is with the absolutely stunning MP10B Masterpiece Black Convoy, which is just breathtaking, honestly. Look at these two together. So yeah, tons of nice things to say about this truck mode, but of course that's only half the story, so let's go ahead and check out that transformation. Well, there we go, we're going back in robot mode, and I have to say, I really enjoy this transformation. Having only ever experienced the Earthrise version of this mold before, it all makes so much more sense now. You know, there's a lot of pieces that are present here in the original version of the mold that just aren't in Earthrise, and by comparison, this is really, really good. I mean, the lion's share of that is definitely in the legs here, because, you know, they actually do something, instead of on the Earthrise toy, where it's apparent that there was some engineering at some point, and it's kind of been stripped out. Here, you've actually got that movement, you know, inherent in the design, and it works really well, and kind of adds a little bit of complexity, which is really welcome, I think. It's also, though, not quite as panel-tastic as Earthrise, and yeah, there's a little bit of that on the sides of the truck, but by and large, it's a fairly cohesive transformation, and I think it works really well. I've done this back and forth quite a few times now since I picked it up, and I'm still really appreciating it. It's like a nice fiddle form of bot, good complexity, but just great, honestly. Exactly what you would want from a kind of Optimus Prime of this size and scale. And as for the robot mode it spits out, well, I think this thing is absolutely gorgeous. I always kind of like the look of Siege Prime, but there's something about the Nemesis that actually I think works even better in this case, and I really don't mind a lot of the kibble that's going on here. I kind of think that's sort of classic generations in a way. It sort of harkens back to that original classics or Henkei designs somehow, which I think is super cool, and I just think there's tons to appreciate here with this TakaraTomy version. They've absolutely crushed it. And that head sculpt is super familiar by now, especially if you do have the Earthrise or indeed any version of this mold, but it still looks very handsome with those piercing red eyes, nice little bit of teal on the head crest there, just superb. Some nice teal accents on the top of the chest there as well, that's always appreciated. Of course, most of what you see here is carried over from the truck mode, you know, with the windows and everything there, but you've got some extra teal here on the waist, so that all looks really, really good. I already mentioned it, but this slightly offset Decepticon logo just there is a little bit of an oddity. I don't know, it's because of the little nub just there in the molding, but it might have been nice if that was slightly more central, just going on there. And I am from the era where I do kind of prefer Autobot Nemesis Primes, even though that's a bit of an oddity these days, but still, this is fine. I suppose the thighs do stick out a little bit here, because they're in that kind of plain grey plastic, which is not bad at all, and it looks absolutely fine. It's just, you know, there's no silver paint or anything on there, but at least they're clean, right? There's none of that kind of Siege battle damage, which I never really got on with personally. I generally prefer a cleaner look, you know, like my toy has not been kept in a drawer full of scissors. On the rear here, I love that you've got these little panels that fold out purely to cover the back of the legs. I just think so clever, really appreciated. One of those little touches that it felt like we kind of lost for a minute there, and it's great to see in this kind of era of toys. And you know, inevitably someone will have something to say about the backpack on this guy, or you know, these bits hanging off the back of the arms as well, but again, it really doesn't bother me. I think it's kind of almost purposeful kibble in a way. You know, it's not just kind of stuff randomly hanging there, although I guess you could say it is that as well, but to me it works. I don't know, it adds a little something interesting to the silhouette, I think. And in terms of visual appeal overall, silhouette or whatever, I just think this thing is the absolute business. It just does everything I wanted it to, it looks fantastic, and you can no doubt see why I was so keen to track it down. It does not disappoint in hand. Now, articulation wise, there's quite a bit going on here as well. I mean, the head will move very freely from side to side, and it can look up and down as well. Plenty going on in those arms. I mean, it's cool because they will come all the way out to the side, and those little smokestack pieces kind of move to accommodate it, so that's all good. Go all the way up and over as well. You will then get a bicep rotation and about a 90-degree bend at the elbow, and there's even a little bit of wrist articulation as well. You then get a very decent waist swivel. It's not at all impeded by the backpack, and you get just a little bit under 90 degrees at the hips. I do also really like this little rotation that you get in the thigh as well. That adds a little something. It's quite quite cool. There is then a second rotation at the knee thanks to transformation, and a very decent bend as well past 90 degrees, so that's super cool. As well as a very decent ankle tilt and some toe articulation thanks to transformation. Add it all up and he's pretty decently articulated. You know, he's a lot of fun to pick up and pose, and he just looks absolutely fantastic. Then of course you want to get those weapons in hand, starting with the gun, but also this rather attractive sword. And what can I say, with the weapons in hand, all posed up, just absolutely dig it. Honestly, this guy is giving me the vibes. This is exactly what I wanted from this release. Love it. And to be fair here, I knew that I would, because I'm already a huge fan of the 3.0 Deluxe version of this character, which I just think is so stunning up close. And it is a little bit strange to see the two of them together, because actually stylistically they are quite different as well. You know, obviously the 3.0 much more detailed, but actually they're quite a nice complement in some ways. I'm really pleased to have them both. Then here you have them with that Henkei convoy that I mentioned earlier, and again, I still think that there's a real place in modern collections for Optimus Primes or other characters that don't look exactly like the cartoon. Like, I really think that's good, and I kind of feel like stuff like today's subject almost gets a bit of a reappraisal now that we've got things like the Studio Series 86. You know, it sort of makes you look at it in a different way and appreciate it for what it is, and to me it's the same with the Henkei convoy. As I say, it's good to have different things. But then of course the other obvious comparison to make here is versus that Earthrise Optimus Prime, at least in the absence of the Siege version of the character. And I really like that actually I've got two different versions representing Optimus and Nemesis. I think that kind of works, like they look so good opposite one another. It's also, by the way, really good fun to see him versus some of the other fallen primes from the recent generations line. And you know, I know that this mold may have been surpassed in some people's minds now with like the Studio Series 86 design and things like this, but I still really dig it, and I think there's still a place for stuff like this in modern collections. You know, it still works to my eye, and plus which, you know what, it's just a great toy, which, you know, ultimately was exactly what I was looking for when I signed on for this thing, right? That's why I went looking for it to begin with. It does not disappoint in hand, it's an absolute banger to behold, and of course it's a very definite toot. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this review is brought to you by tfsource.com, so you will find a link to their site in the description below, and you should absolutely go and check them out for all your Transformers needs. I'd also be very grateful if you could leave me a like for today's effort, please, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But otherwise, that's it from me, so have a great rest of your day, and TTFN.